They had already made up their mind. And then you start hearing shackles. You can hear like the chains and like the rustling around. I don't know what's going to happen. It was like a movie moment. Like I run and like I cry. He's like, they gave me this paper and it says that I am paroled. And I'm like, what does that mean? I'm out there for 4 hours. And by the end of it, I'm crying. I don't know what's happening.
When we talk about immigrants and numbers, we stop seeing people. But when we put faces to the stories, we can finally feel.
All right. Hi, Abree. Thank you for being on my podcast. I appreciate you for giving me your time. You have quite the story, and I'm excited to hear your story. So I'm going to let you introduce yourself.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me here today, Claudio. I really appreciate it. So my name is Abree. I go by Bilingual Blondie on social media. And, I am just sharing stories about my family's immigration journey. My husband's initial immigration to the States from Mexico and then almost being deported back and now are moving to Mexico by choice. So between, blending cultures and families and all of the things, it's just been an adventure.
Right. So before we go into the main story, right? Let's go back to who you guys were before, had the whole, you guys have a beautiful family for what I see in social media. So let's talk about that, how you guys built that beautiful family, who you guys were before all this happened.
Sure. Okay. So I am originally from Oklahoma. My husband moved to Oklahoma from Mexico, and we met in our early 20s through just mutual connections and started dating. We're a blended family. So my husband had 2 kids, a daughter and a son, and I had one. And they were very young at the time. So we just blended our family. We've been together. This will be our 15th year. So we started dating in, I think, 2011. And now we have 2 that we created together. So we have a big, happy blended family. Our oldest is 20 and our youngest is about to be 9. And we have seen it all at this point.
That's a great story. Cultural families are fun. Bicultural families are fun, right? Mixed culture. And then, blending families too. That movie, Blend. I don't know if you watch it or not, but I have, and I'm a divorced person as well. So I'm also in a mixed culture relationship right now with my wife. She's Ukrainian. So it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Not all the time, but there's, the ups and downs, right? But it's cool. I mean, it keeps you busy, right?
100%. Keeps you on your toes.
Right. So, okay. So anyway, so tell us, tell what happened, right? Why you're in Mexico now, right?
Yes. So
Right.
we did move to Mexico in August. So I'll start with just my husband's almost deportation is what we call it, because that's basically what it was. So I travel for work quite often, and we traveled to West Palm I had a work event and I was going to have a few days free afterwards. And so it was Valentine's weekend and I was like, oh, like you should come with me. We could make, this fun out of these last couple days after I get done working and have Valentine's. We hadn't got to take a trip that year. So we were so excited. And we had found a cruise. It's like a quick cruise. And it takes you, the whole trip is 3 days. We went over to the Bahamas and we came back very short, and we had to go swim with the pigs, which is all my fault. Now, all of this happened because I wanted to go swim with pigs. And so we get back and we get into port and we still had some time to kill. So we're excited. We're like, oh, we're having margaritas and we're still on our mommy and daddy free time. And all of a sudden, immigration, when we go through the line, like they wave me through. They're like, yeah, whatever. And they get to my husband and they start asking him questions. So they start just asking questions back to back to back. And we're so confused. We're like, okay, like what is going on? And everybody else is left at this point. Like it's just, they're still asking him questions. So they finally say, you're going to have to come with us. You know, we have more questions to ask you. And they sent me outside. So I'm like, can I not come with him? They're like, no, you can't come with him. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'll take the suitcase at least. And they're like, no. They're like, the suitcase has to go with him. And I was confused, but I was like, okay, what? They go outside and I'm out there for 4 hours. And by the end of it, I'm crying. I don't know what's happening. I had tried to get information. I stopped the immigration officers like that would come out and like walk to their car. I was like, hey, like my husband's in there and nobody's telling me like what is happening. Is he still here? And they were just like, we're not telling you anything. Sorry. Too bad. And so at the end, I'm crying and I'm in the family group chat texting my suegra. They took him. I've been outside for hours. I don't know what's going to happen. And eventually he comes out. And so he comes out and I'm bawling and it was like a movie moment. Like I run and like cry and he's like, it's okay. He's like, they gave me this paper and it says that I'm paroled. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, basically they could not figure out exactly what was in my paperwork that flagged them. But, you know, they can't leave us here at the boat. So they're going to send us home to Oklahoma and we have to report back to ICE. And he's like, but I think it might be serious. Like they were talking to me, you know, pretty aggressively. And one thing, they kept asking him if he had marijuana in the suitcase. And he's like, we don't smoke. We don't no, we don't have anything on us. And he was like, I was so confused. They just kept asking me. They asked me if they could go through it. And he was like, I don't care. Go through it. Like, we're here for my wife's work. You know, and he was like, I don't know. He's like, it's very strange. It was like they wanted a reason for me to be in big trouble. So he's like, we have to go home and we have to report back in. And I don't think this is going to be good. So that's how it started. We started in West Palm and then we flew back to Oklahoma.
Wow.
And do you want me to keep going or take a break?
I just want to make some comments about immigration. You know, they usually don't communicate. I mean, for people that never done or any paperwork with immigration, they don't know how to deal with that or have no idea. Well, I went through it. And first of all, I want to say for the ones that did it the right way that we pay, you're paying for a service. Regardless of being approved or not, that's a whole different thing. I'm not expecting to get approved because I'm paying. But what I'm expecting is that you give me a proper service. But the one thing that happens when you apply for immigration, they don't communicate with you. You can call them a million times. They have no answers. My wife had when she had her immigration interview, they move it. And they never say why. And we called them. We didn't know. We didn't know why they move it. We have no idea. 6-7 months later, they reschedule it. We don't know until today why. We don't know what happened. So it's frustrating because the immigration system is horrible and they treat you like almost like you're being investigated about what? Like, you know,
like a serious crime.
To you, right. You've been there 4 hours and they don't want to tell you what's going on. I mean, it's not like he killed someone, right? So it's just I don't understand that kind of stuff. But anyway, just you can continue with the story. But I just want to say that because I pay for a service and I pay a lot of money because I've been here for over 30 years and I did not get a good service.
Yeah, we expect dignity, at least bare minimum dignity in a service that we pay for. Like you said, approved or not approved that has nothing to do with how you treat people through the process. And that's a really good point because I forgot to mention we took that trip because we had just renewed his green card. He's a lawful, permanent resident, and it was approved and we got his new card. There was no delay. Everything. I mean, it takes a while, of course, to get through the process, but it was approved fairly quickly. And so there was no hitch in the system. We get his card. So we think we're good, right? If you have a valid green card that just got renewed, you assume
Right.
which I should not have done. We should not have done. Assumed that we were good then, right? So that's kind of what prompted this trip also. We're like, okay, well, we got his green card. Like, we're good to go. Wrong. USCIS and ICE, they're terrible at communicating with each other. So I'll move on and then talk a little bit more about that. But so we then go back to Oklahoma and we're like, okay, it's go time. Like, we need to prepare. We didn't know, like, do we just drive up there? Do we make an appointment? Like, what do we do?
Right.
So we're trying to call the number that they gave us and they don't answer. And call again, they don't answer. My husband's like, well, I'm not just going to go right up there. Like, what if they just are like, no, we're taking you right now. Like, what, he's like, I'm going to call and I'm going to make a proper appointment. Okay. So finally, one day they answer. And the ICE agent says, why have you not come up here? And he said, well, they told me at the port, that customs in Florida, to call this number and get everything set up. And he said, well, it's a good thing because, and I won't use the words that he used, but he said, if you would not have called and tried to show up, I would be kicking your effing door in. And at this point, my husband's on speakerphone. And I just like jump into mode. I'm like, excuse me. No, like, you don't need to talk to us that way. That is not appropriate. We are doing everything that is asked of us. We are checking in. We have been calling. And that is not okay. That's not appropriate behavior. And he's like, are you an attorney? And I'm like, no, but I am smart enough to know that that is not okay. And so anyway, he says, get me all these documents, and not just like, cover documents. Like, you have to go to the county clerk. They want stamped stuff. They basically want you to go do their work for them. They're like, go investigate yourself and then bring me the paperwork. And you're like, okay, well, we assume we don't have anything to hide. So we're like, that's fine. And I go, is there a chance that my husband's going to be deported? Like, what are the grounds of this? Like, what is the situation? And he said, well, there was that charge that he had, believe 9 years ago, that he bought a vehicle and it ended up having an altered VIN. And we're like, that's what this is about? We're so confused because he didn't serve time. I think we paid a fine or something. Pay attention to the vehicles that you buy and check the VIN,
Right.
I guess. Make sure that it doesn't have a scratched off VIN. Like, we didn't, lesson learned. But we're like, this is what this is about? Like, he might be deported over this? We were in complete shock. So I asked the ICE agent, I said, hey, we just renewed his green card and it was approved. So why would it be approved if this situation, was still going on and was not, if he was not in good standing, why did they
Right.
just approve it? And he said, they don't even check. And I said, what do you mean they don't check? He said, they don't even check anything. They just go through their little steps and they don't check if you're deportable. They just, did you send in the documents and did you pay them? And if so, there you go. And I was like, what? He goes, yeah, and we don't deal with them anyway. That's USCIS. And I'm like, what do you mean you don't deal with them? That's the form that we filed to get in this situation. So we were very confused. And at that point, we were very naive to understanding the immigration rules and understanding the difference in how, ICE and USCIS don't talk, and how your criminal record versus, your immigration record, they don't connect either. So that was the beginning of it. So we had a conversation with our kids and we're like, hey, this is what's going on. Like, they basically are saying, if I'm letting you know you need to go get these documents, there's a chance he can be deported. So we have to prepare. Of course, my kids are devastated, but they're like, surely they're not going to deport him over this. Like, he's been here all his life. He just renewed his green card. It's valid. Like, this is such a, something we didn't even think about. And so my brain instantly goes into planning mode. That's how I operate. I'm like, all right, it's time to go. Like, we got stuff to do. So it's time to get the girls dual citizenship, make plans for our big kids. Our big kids they are at an age where they didn't want to come to Mexico because they have their lives, they have their jobs, they have
Right.
their partners, college and different things going on. And we respected that. Okay.
That
We
makes sense.
understand. But we still have two little ones.
Right.
And well, still little to us, little compared to our big ones. The littles now are 11 and almost 9. So not so little, but they are to us. And we're like, we have to get all their Mexican paperwork. Let's make them dual citizens. Let's make sure they have passports. We need to set up appointments at the Mexican consulate and get my husband's IDs, make sure we have copies of his birth certificate. He moved from Mexico when he was 11 or 12 years old.
Right.
And he has this like pieces of paper taped together that is like an old birth certificate. And we don't have any current valid documents for him from Mexico. So we just really went into fight or flight mode. We got emergency passport, U.S. passports for the girls. We got us all real IDs. Like we just were checking off everything we could think of to do. And so they had given us a date that was a little bit out. So we had a little bit of time. The initial, I wouldn't say arrest, whatever, them detaining him, the initial detainment was in February, Valentine's. And now we're to April. Okay. And they're like, okay, come back April. I think it was April 2nd. It's like burned into my brain. And they're like, bring all this stuff and come back. Well, they didn't really anticipate for how big our family is and how big our community is. And our friends, we have such a tight friend group that they are our family as well. So we show up with probably like 50 people. And I'm not being like sarcastic. Like there was probably at least 50 people.
That's a lot of people.
Because it is a lot of people. Yeah. Everybody was like, no, we're going. What do you mean we're going? They're like, if we have to riot. And I'm like, oh, hold on now, just let's go to this appointment. Because, they always say, like, do it the right way, do it legal, do what they ask. So we gave it a shot, okay? They asked for this stuff. They said, be here on this date. We went, we did it. We did everything we had to do. And it didn't work out. It really did not work out. So the ICE agent comes out and he instantly is like, oh, you're the one he already knew. You're the one I've been talking to on the phone. And I'm like, yes, I am the one that he didn't look at my husband. He didn't address his existence. It's like he wasn't even there. And, and I know that, and I know that is a privilege, and I'm going to use it to defend my friends and my family anytime that I can. And I'm like, you're absolutely speaking to me.
Right.
And so he comes over and he goes, all these people have to leave. And I'm like, all these people are our friends and family. And this is a lobby, a waiting room. And he goes, I don't care. They all have to get out. And I'm like, okay, well, what at least about our friends or our kids? And he's like, well, which ones are your kids? And I'm like, well, there's 5 of them. And he's like, I guess they can stay. Okay. So we had prepared my husband. I had watched all these videos on like what to do and deportations, and like people just getting dropped off at the border and they don't have a phone and they don't have money and they don't know phone numbers. And so like we had gone through all these like role playing scenarios.
Right.
And I can finally laugh about it now. And so when I laugh about it now, like at the time, this was do or die. Like we were in it was so stressful and so devastating. And I just now started posting a lot of this content because I can finally not cry about it.
Right.
That is how
Right.
long it took to get over it. But so we had him prepared. I had written on his arm, I still have his a photo of him with his immigration attorney phone number.
That's what he was, because I saw that in one of your
Yeah.
videos. Like, what is that?
I was like, he has to have all these numbers. Like, he's never going to remember these. He knows my phone number and maybe his mom's.
I'm the same way.
Maybe his own.
I'm
He's
so
not,
bad. Yeah. That's
I'm
the
like,
main
okay, it truly is.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, you need to have your attorney number. And I had saw where someone wrote on, their person's arm. And so I did that. He takes medicine every day. And so I was like, you have to have your medicine. So I made him like a little Ziploc bag, a little care package of like his Mexican passport in case, he did get dropped off, and cash in case that happened, and his medicine, and I can't remember what all else we put in there, but we had put it in his pockets just to like make sure he had everything he needed. Well, the ICE officer comes back out and he says, all right, I need you to come back here. And my kids like instantly start crying. They start crying and they're like, no. And the ICE officer is like, wait, I'm just going to take him back here and we're going to talk to him. And if anything happens, if we have to take him, we will let him come back out and talk to you all and give you a hug, and say your goodbyes. So just hold on. And that made them calm down. They sat back down. Everybody was like, okay, take a deep breath. So he goes back in the back and I'm listening up against the glass because I'm nosy. And I'm just like, all right, I have like 50 people outside to riot if we need to. But I'm like, as long as you are treating my husband with dignity, whether you're going to deport him or not, just treat him kindly and that's fine. So I was just listening. I was like making sure. And I was videoing. And the weird thing is when you walk in those rooms, it like kicks your video off. So I don't know if it's like a jammer or what it is, but when you walk in there, a lot of times you cannot record.
Interesting.
That's my conspiracy theory. I don't know. I need to look into it. But so I'm like listening up against the glass and you can hear the way they're talking to him. They had already made up their mind. And then you start hearing shackles. You can hear like the chains and like the rustling around. And I start crying and my kids start crying and we're like, okay, like that's it. You can clearly they are detaining him. And so they bring him out of the office and I'm still looking through that glass window and he's already in a full jumpsuit, like a criminal orange and white jumpsuit. And everybody is crying at this point. All the kids are crying. I'm crying. He's crying. I yell through the glass, like, because they start to take him down the hall. And I'm like, what the heck? Like, you said we would get to tell him goodbye. And he turns around and he's like, just you, just me. And I'm like, not our kids? And he's like, no. And I'm like, you just told them. So I'm mad at this point.
Right.
I'm so mad because I'm like, this is devastating for them. And this is a few years ago. So our youngest at the time was 6 years old. And we debated, do we take her? Do we not take her to the appointment? But how also does that work for a child to not see what happened and then their dad is just gone? Or is it better for them to see what's going on and process it? There's no right answer.
Right.
But we stick together. So we all went and I went back there and I just gave him a hug and it was devastating. He said, just go home and wait for my call. And I said, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go home and I'm going to wait for your call. At this point, they take him around the back of the building and out of the building. And when you go out of the building, you go across the parking lot and you go and get in the ice vans. Well, at this point, I have completely forgot all the people outside because I'm so, my
Right.
kids are crying. Our second to youngest was crying so hard her nose started bleeding and she's bleeding everywhere. And so it's just chaos. And then you hear all of a sudden people screaming and crying. And I'm like, and they're like, he's outside. And I'm like, what? Like, they don't tell you, like, we're going to walk him across. You can go over here and look. Like, you don't know what is going on. And so we run outside and daughter's bleeding everywhere. My mother-in-law and everybody's out there. And it is one of the most devastating things. And my husband has his arms behind his back, still shackled to his feet. He tries to wave to us, like behind him. And the ICE officer yanks him back around. And he's like, keep going or something like that. And the ICE officer, my husband told me later that the ICE officer told him, I don't know if this is going to make you feel better or make you feel worse, but that is the most people I have ever seen show up to an immigration appointment or a deportation proceedings. And he was like, yeah, he was like, I tried to wave bye to them, but you didn't let me. So that is how the initial detention went. And you go home and you just wait. And he calls me and he says, hi, honey. And it wasn't that long for me for that first initial call. I would say it was like 30 minutes or an hour or something. I don't know, honestly, because you're in shock and time is not a concept. But I go home and he's like, "Hi, honey. They're just want to let you know I'm okay." And I in my brain, I'm like, "Did they beat you? Like, have they hit you? Are you okay? Like,
Right.
I'm just, that is my first thought." And I am bawling. And he's like, "Take a breath." He's like, "I am okay. They are taking me to Texas." And I'm like, "What?" At this time, this happened in 2024. And so it was still under the Biden administration. Trump hadn't came in yet. So there weren't mass deportations really going on yet. There were still deportations, but it wasn't like now where you see all this footage and you have a
Right.
good idea. You know what's going to happen. We did not know.
Right.
So I go, "What do you mean they're moving you to Texas?" And he said, "That's where they're putting me in detention." And I was like, "Okay." He goes, "Well," and where they were taking him was Anson, Texas, and they were taking him to Bluebonnet facility. And I think it was only like 3.5 hours from us or something. And so we were like, "Okay, you'll be here. You should be here by this time. They said I'll be able to call you as soon as I get there. Uh, so be waiting for my call." So that's what I do. And then you're just in limbo. You don't know what to do. It's like, do I start packing? Do I? So my family is at our house and his family's at his mom's, and everybody's trying to figure out what to do, where to go, how to help. We start packing. Like, I'm moving to Mexico today, I guess. I
Right.
thought it was going to be fast. I thought it was like they take you and you're deported and bim, bam, boom, and you figure it out. Well, it's not. Come to find out, it is not fast. Of course, and I should have known because nothing with the government is fast.
Right.
But he said, "No, fine. Okay." I didn't hear from him when I was supposed to. And so I'm in panic mode. My mother-in-law's in panic mode. Everybody's freaking out. We don't know where he's at. He should have been calling already. The whole next day rolls around and I haven't heard from him. And I'm freaking out because he was supposed to call me in like 4 hours. Finally, he calls me and he says, "Hi, honey, I'm okay. Just to let you know, I didn't get there in those 3 or 4 hours." And I was like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, they don't take you straight to the immigration facility." And I'm like, "Where do they take you?" "Well, they fill up a bus with detainees and then they drop them off at all of the different facilities in that state, or at least in that surrounding area." He's like, "We drove for 8 hours and he had his hands still shackled to the long chain to his feet. No bathroom, no telling them nothing." And I'm like, he's like, "We went to like 4 other facilities and dropped people off before they took us to ours." And I'm in shock because I'm like, you told us he was going to be there in a few hours and now we've been lost all day. Or since till the next day. Just the way that it works is terrible. So he said, "But they put me in the wrong population." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, remember how they had me in orange?" And then, yeah. Well, that's medium, like intermediate, what they consider like criminal wise, I guess, or flight risk. I don't know how they rate them. But he goes, "When I got there, they put me in reds and they put me in the violent category."
Wow.
And he's like, "We were on like full lockdown." And he's like, "That's why I wouldn't call you." He's like, "I finally had to he's like, I kept asking people, like, why am I here? Like, this is over an altered VIN of a vehicle
Right.
and not even stealing the vehicle. Literally just it being in my possession was the crime. And I'm with supposed violent. It could be, I don't know, this is section of immigration. Like, why am I in lockdown? Why am I in the reds? And finally they were like, "We messed up. You're not supposed to be here." What? Like, how do you mess that up?
Yeah,
So they move
and
him.
imagine if you're going into a place like that where you have real criminals, right?
Yeah,
That's not. I never
that's
been in a
dangerous.
situation like that, but I can only imagine, right? You walk in there, you're a good guy, you have no idea how to deal with people like that. It's just crazy, and you are home thinking, not knowing anything. I can only imagine.
Yeah, he said he was in complete shock. He's like, I didn't understand why I was in there. And so finally they moved him to where he was supposed to be. And he said, "But they're not giving me my medicine." And I'm like, what do you mean they're not giving you medicine? They have to. By law, and I checked on it before, he left. He has to have his medicine. And he said, I don't know, but they're not giving it to me. And so I said, hang on, hang tight. I will figure this out. So that was the beginning of 4 months in detention.
Wow.
He was there from April until July. So April, May, June, July. Yeah, 4 months. They moved his court dates several times for no reason. Didn't tell us why. They don't care either. They're like, we don't have to tell you why. They're like, we don't even know why. They just changed it. They changed his district from whatever Anson is in to technically like San Antonio district also. Why? Nobody knows. And so things just kept getting delayed. And I was ready, right? Like, I don't know if you've seen on my social media, like my binder.
I saw that.
I was ready. I got everything organized because I'm like, you're not going to take my husband from me. And you're sure not going to take him from me and leave me with 5 kids. Like, I'm coming to get my husband. So I had all of these documents ready. Anything the attorney needed, I was ready for it. So I'm like, I don't understand. Why can't we get him out? Every document you asked me for, I've already given it to you. And he's like, it doesn't work that way, Bree. Like, you are going to have to wait. And that was the hardest. The wait was the hardest part.
Yeah.
And my family kept saying, he's not dead, Bree. Like, he's not dead. But that is how it felt. Our empty house that used to be like filled with laughter and now is filled with devastation and packing and boxes and just the lack of his presence. It felt like a ghost house.
I want to say something, right? First, I want to say you're a great wife. I just say that. You're a great wife.
Thank you.
How I can feel in your emotion when you're telling this story, how much you like your husband, what you did for him. But my older son, 30 years old, right?
Mm-hmm.
And my older son went to basic training. He was in the military for 5 years, in the army. But
Nice.
while he was in basic training, and I'm bringing this up because I want to compare this to what you were going through, we had no communication. It was a privilege for him to make a phone call. And if they did things right, everybody could call it family. But if they screw up, they cannot call.
Mm-hmm.
They had to write.
Yep.
And when you have someone that you love, the way you love your husband, and I love my son, we knew that he wasn't dead. But we just didn't know how he was. And we were sleeping in our comfort bed, and we're excited. I mean, we're happy for him, but we're scared. Like, he was only 17 years old when he went to basic training.
Man, I can only imagine.
And so I understand. I mean, I know they will say, well, he's not there. Yeah, but you love that person. Like, you're sleeping, and you can't see that person. You know what he's doing, what happened. And I completely understand. Nobody can really understand that feeling unless you're going through. So obviously,
100%.
Our thing was just basic training. It wasn't a bad thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
But your situation is harder because there was not something you expected, something you planned. We planned my son to go to basic training, so there's a lot of difference on the story and the situations. But so I would assume that your case was even harder, in my opinion.
It was very hard. I think anyone going through a loss, right? It's a loss. It's a loss of their presence, a loss of your day-to-day. It's a loss of your peace.
Right.
And anybody going through a loss of peace, it's just hard. It's just really, really hard. And people would be like, I don't understand, Bree. Like, why aren't you leaving the house? Like, you normally want to go do this and that. And I'm like, I physically am exhausted. I am so worried that my physical body, I lost 25 pounds, I think.
Wow.
And I just had no energy. I did my very best to keep it together because I still had kids to raise. I still had to get my kids to school. I still had to work. You still have things to do. And I also was in this weird limbo in between. Am I moving to Mexico or is he going to get released? Do I sell everything or do I wait?
Right.
For me, and the type of person that I am anyway, I'm an over communicator. You ask me a question, I'll give you 20 answers. But don't make me wait. Like, please don't make me wait.
Right.
So it was terrible. It was the worst time
So
for
sorry
me.
I cut you off, but I wanna say that I understand what you're going through. When people are saying, "Hey, he's not dead," well, that's not the point.
Yeah,
This is
that's not the
someone that
point.
I love deeply, and you lost 20 pounds. Imagine. So, and I can imagine you seeing your kids don't having a real answer to them. They saw
Yep.
him not in a good way. I mean, that was probably a very probably no. It was a really hard situation. So,
Sure.
right,
So, yeah, at that point, our daughters are sleeping in his t shirts. Like, we've gotten to the point where we're all depressed. And the attorney says, okay, well, we're going to fight for hardship. So basically, the only defense that he has is nothing. And I'm like, what do you mean? Well, you have a defense. You, me, because I'm a US citizen, because our kids are US citizens, we have a defense for him. And I'm like, what? They just don't care about him? Like, what do you mean? And he goes, well, the hardship waiver says it would be hard. It would do damage to you as a U.S. citizen and your U.S. citizen children if he was deported. And I'm like, okay. So to put that in perspective, you don't care about him at all because he's an immigrant. But because I'm a citizen and I was born here, I can apply for him relief. Yes. Okay. I'm like, I have so much to say about that, but
right,
whatever. If
right.
that is the only path, then okay. I said, what do I have to do? Well, you have to, get all these letters about how is his character. You need to talk about how this is affecting you. And I said, he goes, really play it up, your mental health, your physical health. And I go, I don't need to play it up. I said, I don't know, because I hadn't seen my attorney for a while at that point, and I go, I don't look the same. I don't need to pretend for the judge. Like, this has devastated us. And he said, put it all in there. He said, write letters, pull up all of the kids' like awards they've won at school, family photos, everything. And our best chance is to show the judge that if he is deported, it will do you and your US citizen kids great harm. I said, okay, I'll do it. So that's what we did. They sent us to like psychologists or psychiatrists. They did full evaluations. They took like doctor's notes of my weight before it started, doctor's note of after. They took notes of some of my kids' like depression during the time. And one of our older kids started depression medicine during the time because they just couldn't snap out of it. And all of those things we provided to the judge. And mind you, when we get to this appointment, it's virtual and they do almost all of the hearings virtually now. My attorney's like, I don't know if you're technically supposed to be in here, but I'm going to put it on speaker. Just don't talk. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I sit in there and I have my big kids. We didn't bring the little kids. They were at school. And 3 minutes is all that court hearing took. He was detained, paroled, went back, detained, kept for 4 months for a 3-minute court hearing. And the judge said, tell me whatever you have to say. And he said, Judge, this is what happened. I didn't think about it. I have a valid green card and I did not think about it. My wife to the Bahamas is what happened. And he just cut him off and he said, you know what? I read your wife's letters and I saw the pictures of your family and I'm going to let you go. But if you're ever here again, I'm going to deport you. He said, I won't even ask a question. I won't hear your story. I won't. And we were like, wow. So can you imagine someone who maybe had a DUI when they were 19 or something, or maybe and I'm
Right.
not saying those are small charges, but
Yeah.
people make mistakes when they're younger.
Absolutely.
So the way that he was treated over something so small, but he said, okay, you're free to go. And we were like,
Right.
that moment for us was so exciting. And they said, you can pick him up today. And I'm like, say less. So me and my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, my mother-in-law, and we drove to Anson and it took us to 3 or 4 hours and picked him up. And
Wow.
it was the weirdest thing. You're in deja vu. But he wasn't really like there. Like when they talk about like after you're incarcerated or after you're held or whatever, that does permanent damage on, your mental state, on your
Yeah.
health. And he got out, and of course, I don't know if you saw the video of me like running to him there at the gate, but he was like blank. I mean, he was so excited to see us, and there was tons of tears and stuff. But then after we got in the truck, it was just like silent. And he was like, I don't know what to say. He's like, I don't like, he just was like, and for months after, he woke up at the certain times and he
Right.
ate at the certain times, and he was just institutionalized. And that just did such a number on us that even after he was home, it had such lasting impact. I couldn't snap out of it either. He was literally home, and I would still catch myself crying off in the corner because
Right.
you can't just shut your brain back to how it used to be. You can't shut the depression off. Like you can't.
Right.
It is devastating, the amount of time that it takes to snap back. So
Right.
anyways, he's home now. Everything's going. And I'm just like, should we just go to Mexico anyway? And he's like, what? What do you mean, should we go to Mexico? Like, I just fought to not get deported. And I'm like, well, yeah, do it the legal way. Like, we're going to keep your green card and we're going to follow all the rules. And I go, but I don't want to be here. I don't want to be in one majorly red state. Oklahoma is historically Republican. I love
Yeah.
Oklahoma. It is my home. But it is also very known for being a red state, being, having a lot of racism going
Right.
on. And when you look at my children, they don't look white. They don't
Right.
look like me. They don't have blonde hair. They don't have green
Right.
eyes. Like, they look Mexican. The world looks at them and sees Mexican before they see anything else.
Right.
And as much as I tell them to be proud of that, to be proud of where they come from, where their dad comes from, their roots, I wanted to shield them from any more ugliness. And my daughter came home from school, and at the time she was in second grade, and she was crying. And I'm like, why are you crying, Mama? Like, what's wrong? And she's like, this girl on the playground was crying, and the little kids were telling her they were going to deport her dad. They were going to deport her dad and this and that. And she said, I just started crying. She said, they didn't even know that my dad just got out of deportation proceedings. And it broke my heart. If 2-year-olds are picking on other 2-year-olds,
Wow.
something is fundamentally wrong.
Right.
And we live in a nice area. Our neighborhood is really nice. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter the class. It doesn't matter the side of town. It doesn't matter. Like, racism and ugliness will follow you anywhere you go. And we did our very best to keep it, our kids shielded from it. But I was fed up at that point.
Right.
I was ready to go. So that's when we made the decision to start packing.
Wow, man, what a story, right? The heart of the story is crazy, right? And I can feel your emotion when you're telling the story. I can see that you laugh about it, but I can also feel that it was a sad moment. I can see it. I can feel it when you tell the story. When you talk about Oklahoma, right? Did you guys, besides all this issue, all this matter you guys have, and your daughter experiences that, besides, did you guys have any other discrimination issues in that state? Because I used to live in red state, but I never really felt any discrimination at all. I'm not
Sure.
saying there's none. Sometimes there's hidden discrimination you might don't see, right? But
Yeah.
so I don't know if you guys experienced anything.
So that's a really good question. We've experienced it in other situations. Usually it's disguised as like a joke.
Uh,
Like, somebody says something inherently super racist or inappropriate and they like laugh like, that was so funny. And we're like, what? Or especially the older generation. I've been asked if I am my kids' babysitter. I have been told, we got stopped at a restaurant one time by this really elderly man, and he said, my wife doesn't understand your kind, But I just tell her, love is love and it's okay. But, she just does not understand couples like you guys. And we didn't know what to say. We were just like, okay, thank you. Like,
I mean, I don't know.
okay.
I don't know what's more weird, if her wife is saying that or he's saying it to you. Like, I mean, why do I need to know that? Like, I don't know. I mean, that's.
Like, you can keep that to yourself. Like,
I
it was
know.
the weirdest.
I'm like,
Yeah,
are you
we
trying to
definitely
say
have
that
seen
you're a
it.
nice person? What was the point of that? I don't get it.
Are you tattletelling on her? Like, where is she? Is she going to pop out? Like, I don't know. It was the weirdest. Yeah. So we've had instances, but there's also, a side of Oklahoma that is very blended. Most of us in Oklahoma are Native American. Most of us, have some type of tribal card. And the Hispanic population is really big there. So there is a beautiful population there that is also very blended and very accepting. But unfortunately, we were just at a point that we weren't willing to let the little stuff slide anymore. And we genuinely, with the way that, the US and everything is just going right now, we didn't feel like it was going to get better. We felt like it was going to continue to get worse. And now
Right.
we've kind of seen that play out.
Right. Yeah, things are pretty crazy right now. It's all over the place. But anyways, like I said, immigration is a service and it's a really bad service. So
Yeah.
I mean, you just say based on your experience, there was no communication between them, and then your husband spent 4 months, and then in 3 minutes he's off the hook. It's like, okay, what was that about? Like,
Yeah.
and they put you and your kids through something that is unexplainable, hard to explain what someone would feel during those moments, and they just did that, right? They
Yeah.
did it, and then okay, so now he's gone. I don't know. And then your husband spent 4 months in jail, and I'm sure that he being in four walls all day with certain people, it did something to him. So I'm sure when he get off there, being a civilian again, he probably took him a little bit of time, as you say, that you process like, okay, I'm home, I get to see my kids. Here's my bed. I don't have to worry about the guy next to me anymore. Like probably
Yeah.
all these little things. He was some sort of brainwash because he had to follow certain rules every day, and now he doesn't have to follow any rules. It's like, okay, I'm sure it took him a while to process that and go back to normal. Like,
Yeah. 100%.
he was locked down, and that does something to your brain for sure. Um, so right now, let's go to the next part of your story, right?
The happy part.
The happy part, because so there was a happy part when you guys met, and then we put
Yep.
the sad part in the middle. It's a sad part with a happy ending. But I want to say that all these things that happen to people made them better. I think you wouldn't have what you're about to tell us right now if it
Yep.
wasn't because of that, right? So
100%.
I'll let you tell the audience the happy ending.
Awesome. So, love telling this part because this is the part that you realize that home isn't necessarily where you're born. Home is where you take a deep breath, and when you exhale, you feel at peace. We feel so at peace now. And for me, that has been the biggest part. So we decided to pack up. We rented our house out. We didn't sell because we do have kids still there. We plan to be grandparents and involved. Um, but we basically narrowed our life into 4 totes and packed up our 3 dogs and we hit the road. And everybody was like, what do you mean you're going to drive across Mexico? That's so dangerous, because everybody was like, no, 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 ahí in Mexico, no, don't do it. And I just wanted to give it a shot. Like, I just
Right.
really wanted to see the world. Like, for me, when I see like borders, I see things I don't know, it doesn't scare me. I want to know what's on the other side. Like, I'm like, oh, I don't know your language. Like, teach me a word. Like, I don't expect you to conform to me. So for me, it's just been a huge adventure. We left in August and we traveled throughout Mexico until December. So we have been all over Mexico, but we spent quite a bit of time reintegrating back into my husband's hometown as well. His grandparent or his grandpa is still there. He's older, has Alzheimer's. So we got to spend good quality time with family. The girls got to see, where their dad comes from, where, their grandma comes from. They're out there with the chickens and the cows and the horses. And my husband is not from the city. He was from a little bitty rancho in San Luis. And so, it's for me, like, those are the moments that they remember. I know my kids are going to remember those moments over anything we would have ever bought them, over any,
Absolutely.
toy, over any little theme park or anything like that. Like, they remember every moment in the rancho like vividly, and when they talk about it, they're just like, it was so much fun. Now, there's the hard side too, right? Because it's an adjustment. It's a big adjustment. It was hot, there was no air conditioning, and we're not used to that.
Right.
Now, granted, like, we knew that going into it, so it wasn't like a huge shock for us, but it's different preparing your brain and then actually sweating to death. So, and then watching my husband reintegrate, like, he left this home when he was 11 or 12 years old. And so almost feeling like a stranger, feeling like an immigrant all over again, because, coming back to his people, and they're like, but you left, like, you don't really know how things work here now. But, then he's in the States, and it's like, well, you're not from here. So it's like, where do you fit in? Like, well, you're somewhere in the middle. And so that was a really special time, spending time in his rancho. Like, he got to meet a brother that he had never met before, and they just fell in love. It's so cute. They talk all day now, and it's just been, something that we cannot forget. So we spent a month in his hometown. We finished getting my residency here in Mexico. And then we started traveling. We hit the road. So we did Puerto Vallarta. We did, which is in Jalisco. And then we did Guanajuato, which is amazing. We had so much fun. We went and saw the mummies. We went to the capital. Like, we did everything. We went for the Cervantino Festival, and it's like the arts festival. And you're in this like historic backdrop with all these cathedrals. Like, it's beautiful. And then we went to Puebla, which is amazing. Saw all the volcanoes. We did Oaxaca. Oaxaca is my favorite for food. Like, I'm
Right.
sorry to the other states, and I'm sorry, Suegra. I know that San Luis to her is like, that's what I'm supposed to answer, but Oaxaca food, top tier.
I
I have
interview a
never
couple of people from Oaxaca, so I heard that.
love Oaxaca. I love Oaxaca. Yes. And I saw on your website that you had interviewed Crystal
Yes,
from
she's amazing. She's great.
she is one that I followed during my planning time. I followed her, and Oaxaca was on our moving list because of her. So I'm so grateful for other people that have shared their journeys,
Right.
because you hear all these stories like, it's not safe, and it scares people. And watching her journey,
Right.
it's like, okay, like, she has for the most part blonde hair, like, and she's blending in and
Right.
doing great things, and she's safe. And that really like gave my husband the peace to exhale and go, okay, like, we can do this. Other people are doing this, and it can be a beautiful journey. So yeah, I love Oaxaca. And then we kept going. So we didn't stop at Oaxaca. We went all the way down Mexico. We went to Campeche and then came up through the Yucatan, and now we're at Playa del Carmen. So I can say Playa del Carmen, I really truly thought, because I'm landlocked from Oklahoma, right? So I was like, all right, we're going to travel. We're going to see the world, and you're taking me to the beach, okay? Because
Right.
this was traumatic, and now I want to go live life. Like, I want to see coconuts every day
Right.
and get a sunburn. Well, I'm not gonna lie. Like, we have been here now at the beach for a
Right.
while, and we're like kind of missing. We're missing like the traditional food that from his hometown. We're missing like
Right.
the family. So I don't know. Will we stay here? Maybe, maybe not. We're really in this just immigration mode. A lot of
Right.
people here, they use the term expat,
Right.
which is,
Right.
that's fine for them, but I consider myself an immigrant. I immigrated here. I'll probably immigrate somewhere else. So where will we end up? I'm not quite sure. Our girls do online school for now because we haven't quite figured out where we want to for sure land. But, it's just such a beautiful journey. Like when I look at all of the states and all of the things and the people that we've met and the food that we've tried, and I'm just like, man, if we were back home, we would just be in our house.
Right.
Which, I mean, I love our house, don't get me wrong, but like I lived in Oklahoma all my life. And for me, leaving was not the scary part. For me, staying in the state I was born in and never leaving is scary. Like for me,
Right.
that was much scarier than the unknown. So we've had a great journey so
I mean,
far,
the
and our
unknown could be excited. Depends on how you want to look at it, right? But you know, I don't know. I think you're talking about traveling or doing more. That's excited, because life is not gonna be boring for you anymore. You're gonna be able to just do things and going out. And look, people will scare you. My wife is from the Ukraine, and before I went to see my wife, and I used to live in Utah, right?
okay.
Another red state. And I used to live in Utah, and I'm in Louisiana now. But people were telling me all the scary stuff about going abroad and why you gonna go there, blah blah blah, and all my
Mhm.
friends, and I just went. I went to Ukraine, and it was one of the best experience I ever had. I went alone. Obviously, I was a man, right? But I went alone. Everybody looks the same there. I was like, when I'm walking over there, you don't see like here. There's diversity in the United States, or
Right.
including Mexico, but over there was like diversity was like very little. So when I'm
Yeah.
walking there, people are looking at me, right?
They're
So
like, "Who's this guy?"
yeah, so and then I was at my wife's house where she lives, a little town. I went to meet her parents, and I was just there. It was like a magical moment. Like I'm sitting there
Oh,
looking at the walls and the architecture. Is like, wow, well, look at this place. There's some beauty into that, some magic. At least for me, there's something to my brain that it motivates me, and I'm looking forward. Like you say, we don't know what the future looks like, but we know we want to go see more. And that's just great excitement. At least in my view.
100%. And the fact that you went and you were open minded about it when everybody else was coming at you, planting those
Yeah,
little seeds of doubt. And I understand people want the best for you, right? They love you and they're
right,
like, oh no, like we just want you to be safe. But sometimes the biggest part, the biggest challenge isn't the move or isn't the travel. Sometimes the biggest challenge is just not being what everyone else expects you to be or not
right,
doing what everyone else expects you to do. That can be the biggest challenge. And so, yeah,
right.
I definitely wanna go to Ukraine, I'm jelly.
Yeah,
We'll see.
it's nice. So Crystal say in in her podcast, she say, This is it. This is what I'm supposed to do in my life." I always I don't know why this is stuck with me. Like I can see
Mhm.
her saying this, and this is it. This is all I'm supposed to do in my life. I had to question that. That's it. And she's a questioning, and then she left and she planned it, and she moved to Mexico. And as you say, she having a great life, and
Yeah,
she, you took her advice, so that's great. Look, I'm very happy for you. I'm happy that the story ended up the way that it is right now. And I remember to start closing the podcast, I remember Stephen Jobs say, "You cannot connect all the dots moving forward. You can only connect them moving back." And
mhm,
I think as hard as your that moment in life it was hard. You wouldn't be who you are today if it wasn't because of that. You, your husband, your kids. I think you guys are probably stronger family right now, and it's all because of it. And sometimes bad things need to happen for us to learn and be better. Uh,
100%.
great story. I appreciate you. Fantastic story. Maybe you tell me another story another time. Maybe you're still traveling.
Sure.
I will have another podcast
We
with you. I
have
want to hear
lots
you.
of stories. Yeah, 100%.
You're a great communicator, a great storyteller.
Thank
It was
you.
great. So I appreciate it and thank you for everything. Thank you for being on my podcast.
Thank you so much, Claudio, for having me today.
No, thank you. Thank you.